The Disabled Crone, a Spoonie Authors Network podcast hosted by Kat Gordon. Special guest, Derek Newmanstill, Why Zines Are Making a Comeback. Hi, I'm Kat Gordon, author, editor, and cupcake eater, and welcome to The Disabled Crone. Our topic today will be why zines are making a comeback. And today's beyond fabulous, amazing, stupendous guest is Derek Newmanstill. Derek Newmanstill, they, them, is a disabled, queer, non-binary, fat femme activist, author, poet, artist, academic, and educator. Derek's research interests include disability studies, fat studies, queer theory, and 2S LGBTQIA plus studies, digital humanities, arts-based research, and speculative fiction. Derek is the 9-time Prix Aurora Award-winning creator of the Digital Humanities Hub, Speculating Canada. Derek has published resource material in the Spoonie Authors Network about tropes to avoid in works featuring disabled characters, and their most recent books are Whispers Between Fairies, Over the Rainbow, Folks and Fairy Tales from the Margins, and the Prix Aurora Award-nominated anthology, We Shall Be Monsters, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein 200 Years On. They were also the forward author and a contributing author to the Prix Aurora Award-nominated multi-genre disability fiction anthology, Nothing Without Us. Welcome, Derek!
Hi, Kat. Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited. I should have included in my bio that I'm also a zinester. A zinester is a fun term for someone who creates and expresses themselves through zines. And most of my zine work tends to be what are called per-zines, which are personal zines. So telling our own stories, but using those as an activist mechanism to talk
That's
about.
fantastic. I'm so now see, I learned something every single time I talk to you. And I love it, a zinester. So let's begin, because for our audience who might not know what zines are, could you just briefly describe what is a zine?
Sure. The term zine is kind of a short form of magazine, and essentially it is like an anti-magazine. So its role is to basically allow for people to express things without having to go through a publisher. They tend to be kind of loosely constructed, messy things that you can easily pass out to folks. And they've got a huge history too. I'm going to show you an example of a little mini zine.
Can you
So,
describe that for our audience?
oh yes. So it is about an eighth of a size of a piece of paper, and it is folded up to give multiple pages, incorporating collage, incorporating poetry, incorporating like mini essays and some sketch drawings as well. And so this is one of them. This one is called Celebrate Your Body. You probably will notice a theme with most of my scenes around disability.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. There is a huge history. I entitled this episode Why Zines Are Making a Comeback, but zines have been around since at least the 1930s, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting to see how they kind of formed out of things like earlier pamphlets and things like that. So they have this fascinating kind of blended history of being moving from a propagandist sort of pamphlet onto this idea of the zine. Zines kind of hit their maximum peak of interest around 1970 when they were in the 1970s, while they were used for the punk scene primarily.
Yeah.
Um, this is also where a lot of activist scenes around women's expression came about as well. So a lot of, especially in the punk scene, a lot of women were tired of being band members' girlfriend
Yeah.
and wanted to actually be their own band members to create their own bands. Sorry, I'm saying this, and you actually have background in the music industry, well, a background in music. So I'm probably telling
No,
you.
hey, you know what? I love it. I just love hearing all of this. Yes, we don't want to be for the band. We want to be the band.
Yes, exactly. And so the origin point, like girl zines started becoming really popular. And by the 90s, they started being used basically to introduce folks to third wave feminism,
Mm.
which brought in intersectional approaches. So rather than just focusing on white straight women's lives, these zines expanded that out to be like, what about BIPOC folks? What about queer folks? What about disabled folks? Although less that, unfortunately. And I think there's a really interesting history there connecting zine culture to feminist discourse. So
Oh
it's
yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm sorry. Pardon me. I don't mean to cut you off. I just get very excited when you when you bring up all these things. Everything you said is so important when you're talking about marginalized communities as well. Like it's a vehicle for expression in so many different forms. And why do you think today zines are making a comeback? Why do you think particularly right now that's happening?
That's such a good question. And I think it's honestly part of the DIY movement, the do-it-yourself movement. People are getting tired of official publishers.
Mm.
They're getting tired of going through the official routes. And a lot of folks are also getting tired of the internet environment as the only source for information. So if people want something tangible, they want something that they can touch, something that they can take away with them rather than skim reading a blog, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I'm also, I guess for me too, right? Because we're both disabled creatives.
Yeah.
And, with what's going on politically in the world, we feel
Hmm.
that there are forces at play that want to diminish our voices.
Yeah.
And again, what you said about the publishing industry is on point as well, because maybe I don't know. I'm just speculating here. Maybe some people will feel, well, I don't know if stories written by marginalized creators are going to sell, so you don't know if there's going to be a change in acceptance of our stories. And it almost
Absolutely.
feels like zines are an opportunity to defy that, to defy making us less and smaller than what we are.
Absolutely. Nicely said. And zines can be in a range of things as well. So I've shown you a little one-page zine that is kind of folded up in a cool way.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wanted to show you also one specifically about disability. So this one is called Disability is Not a Bad Word. And
Mm,
it includes a bunch of sort of activist points drawing on my own personal experience of disability. But they can also be super polished as well. Generally, zines are meant to be sort of trash zines, but I wanted to show also some of my more polished zines. So this one is about being called the R word.
right.
Because I have learning disabilities and specifically having to go to an area of the school that was universally called the R word room, except they use the actual word,
Yeah.
including teachers. And so there's a lot of potential in the vast sort of possible discourse of zines. You can also, I've got another one that is kind of a collage trash zine because zines are also about collecting things and bringing them together into a space. So it's about creative reuse and recycling as well.
So what does trash zine mean? Like I'm thinking you read it and you throw it in the trash. I
It's
don't think
really
that's what we're trying to do, right?
No, definitely. I hope that people hold on to these things for quite some time. They are basically, so in the punk movement, a lot of words like trash were reappropriated to talk about, like, oh, my work's trash. And so it's sort of a means of using a derogative for the self and for what one is creating. Um,
Mm,
but I like the term trash zine, especially for zines like this that are sort of collaging.
yeah.
This one's called Teaching Doctors to Care About Disability.
Oh yeah.
And it is essentially, I've used little bits of collage materials as well as various ephemera. So basically, using things that would be thrown in the trash um,
Oh,
to instead create something new and something that actually uses those materials in a different way. So there's a
I
lot
mean,
of yeah.
that's incredible. Like, I'm holding now your zine, um,
Oh,
uh, Dr. Bullshit. Yes, I do swear.
yeah.
But while some of us have had supportive doctors,
Yeah.
many of us have had the experiences of having doctors where their narrative is the only narrative that matters. And
Yeah.
you explore many things in this particular zine. You explore how fat it can be weaponized against a patient.
Yeah.
How you could be called a non-compliant patient just because you don't agree with their assessment, because hey, it's not like it's your body or anything. Um,
Yeah.
how does it feel to express all of those different feelings through art, through poetry, essay? How does that feel to do something like that for a zine like that?
It feels really vulnerable,
Mm.
especially because you're really putting yourself and your story out there. Now, for me, I'm an educator, and so I view my story as an educational opportunity.
Mm.
And so I love the fact that zines allow me to express in multiple different media. So I can use my artistic work, I can use my poetry, I can use prose essays, I can use storytelling. All of these kind of combine in the zine format to allow for a multitude of expressions. And so there's a vulnerability there, but also there's an excitement about sharing something and a recognition that people are going to read these zines and have those moments of identification. So people are going to read them and be like, oh, I have had the exact same experience. Or I have had a similar experience. Or even, I know how you feel.
Mm.
And I think those experiences are really brilliant to have. And they give a sense of empathy that allows people to absorb it in different formats because certain things, like I always say to folks, there are certain things that can't be expressed in an essay. There are
Mm.
certain things that need wordplay, and there are certain things that can't be expressed in words at all, that need an image. And so frequently, the combination of these in the zine format, my hope is that I can express myself on multiple levels and that audience members will read it on different levels. I use the term read very broadly to include also reading the artwork.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure, for sure. And to experience basically.
yeah.
Um, Now, I mean, I'm looking at you right now, and in the background, there's all these incredible works.
Oh,
You're
thank
you
you.
you are a very talented artist and wordsmith and a brilliant essayist. What about folks who are listening in here who might think, well, I don't know if I'm that good to write a zine. Like, do you have to have massive artistic skills or massive, word crafting skills to make a zine?
That is such a good question, Kat. And absolutely not. Zines are such an open format to allow people to express themselves in however they want. I often tell people, like especially like with the collage zines, you can put something together just out of like associations with things. So you don't have to create necessarily. You can revamp and re-explore. So this one is I specifically so this one is called Protest Make Change, Transforming Trash into Protest Art.
Okay, you
Um,
got a little hummingbird there, and
yeah,
who's carrying that message?
yes.
That's awesome.
So I do several workshops on zine making, and I've actually had a week full of them. I did one on disability with folks, did one on fat discourse and anti-fat phobia, and I did one on just activism and specifically feminist activism.
Hmm.
But the main thing is everyone has a story. Everyone has something to express. Everyone has something that they've thought about. And remember, fanzines were sort of the start of the zine culture, especially, and this will speak to you and I as sci-fi folks, science fiction fanzines.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
for
is
sure.
where, yeah. And so this is where people could express that excitement about science fiction. They could mess around with characters. They could do fan fiction. But it's so interesting to see the way that the personal interacts with these zines, the way that the zines come to express key things about ourselves and our passions, and also the things that we don't think we can do otherwise. And so I always encourage folks, use the medium how you will. And remember, anyone can create a zine. They can be the simple sort of um, like one page zines. Uh,
Oh,
oh, sorry, this one is called Love is Love. And it is, I'm going to show you actually how these are folded up because they're one page that is easily photocopied so that they're
okay.
simple to create. And you just essentially fold your paper down to that.
So it's one page, but it's really like what, 8 pages?
Exactly.
But it's
Yeah.
folded together.
How cool is that, right?
It's very, very cool. Now you challenged me.
I
I say
did.
challenge in a loving way to work on a zine, and I'm currently working on a zine. And
Yeah.
so I am someone who spent over 20 years, formatting documentation, and now I, can format books and such. So I come from a background of a certain kind of perfection, and I'm also a crafter. Another kind of thing where you're not going for perfection, but you're going for something like really good quality. And
Hmm.
what I'm noticing now is the letting go of that, because you kept saying it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe this isn't perfect, but it's
Yeah.
expressing the point that I need, right? And
Exactly.
I'm writing a perzine about my experience as a self-discovered autistic woman.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm working on that. Stay tuned, folks. I'm working on that. And like I said, for me, the big thing is to let go. It doesn't have to be shiny, perfect, polished, right? It just needs to be your expression.
Absolutely. And I'm going to recommend, like I recommend to many people, start out with one of these little mini foldy zines,
Yeah.
because essentially you can't correct things as you go. You can't fix them. They are just cemented in as you do them. And probably most folks don't know this, but I am dyslexic as well. And so my little foldy zines contain spelling errors. Uh,
Mm.
they can contain transposed letters. And I just had to, I'm also a perfectionist, especially within the academic field. We are taught to be ultra perfectionists.
Yeah.
Um, and this allowed me to kind of give away that and be like, you know what, I can create just something for play, something for fun, and something like that doesn't require a lot of polish. And for
Almost
the
like a celebration of dyslexia, if you want, if you will. Like, dyslexia is part of who you are. So why shouldn't it come out in your zines? Or am I overstepping there?
No, absolutely. You are totally right. I think this is part of the message that I give, includes that dyslexia. And I will say also, my dyslexia means that I can write some really cool poetry because words sort of have complicated feelings associated with them for me, and can shift and change. And so that fluidity allows for poetry to be written. But yeah, I generally with these little zines, I do 2 hour workshops and folks are able to walk away with a zine that they can easily photocopy and distribute.
That's amazing. Are there any like resources for people to figure out how to start with a one-page zine, or do you offer online workshops or in-person workshops?
Yes, so so Make a Zine is basically Joe Beale's work around creating something, um, around helping folks to create something that allows them to express. It talks about the kind of culture and subculture of zines and how they've become something that is anti-commercial, that
Mm.
sort of speaks back to the marketplace. I also recommend Alex Rex, WREKK, Stolen Sharpie Revolution, which again explores that do-it-yourself work and this idea that everyone has stories we need to tell. So those are two of the main ones that I recommend to folks. Um, and I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff with that. Oh, also, sorry, Mark Todd and Esther Pearl Watson's What You Mean, What's a Zine? The Art of Making Zines in Mini Comics, is another one that I strongly recommend. So there's a couple of resources out there to play with, that introduce you to zine culture, tell you a little bit about how to create zines, and give you a sense of the wider connection and network of zines.
I
And
can't believe I didn't think about this. Zines for comics. I used to dabble in comics, just comics I wrote for myself in the 90s. And that's a cool thing to do in a zine.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
something that I haven't tried yet in my zines. And so I think at some point I want to experiment with that as well, because it's a really interesting medium.
Yeah, for sure. Um, well, you've done so much with I mean, when did it start for you? I feel like you've done so many zines. Was it later last year? When did you start playing with zines?
It was spring of last year.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I got into zine culture and I just went for it and like immersed myself in it. I started out with some perzines. So you've seen Dr. Bullshit and also
Dr.
the R.
Bullshit. I'm sorry, but I'm a title person. That just makes me laugh.
I enjoyed it so much. I also wrote one about the hate marches against trans folks.
Okay.
And that one I include some interviews as well. So it was a way of kind of expressing my need to make social transformation happen. And then I decided to go totally fun, and I created a zine about Ontario cryptids, so
Oh,
monsters in Ontario. And I just did some fun sketches, some little mini essays, and an interview with, of all things, the Trent Sasquatch Society. I was so
my
excited that
goodness.
they
Oh, that's amazing. You know, I don't think I totally live in the real world all the time. I thought you were going to say the Trent University Sasquatch. Like you found a lived experience cryptid, because that would have been really,
I
really cool.
You know what? Actually, one of the interviews, the person kept on saying Sasquatches are not real. And I was like, I talked to Dwayne about it, and he was like, my partner Dwayne, and he was like, well, that is exactly something that a Sasquatch would tell you. So I have some theories.
That's fun. So, with your zines, like the ones that are more like 20 page booklets or so,
Yeah.
they're available to be purchased, aren't they?
They are, yes. Right now, it's best to contact me directly so that I can send them to you, because then I can send them in a cute little pink envelope with a cute little sticker on it. And that's part of zine culture is that mail out as well. And often people will do exchanges of zines through mail. And so someone will ask, like, "Hey, do you want to do a correspondence piece?" And you give your zine, and they give their zine to you. So it's really interesting to see how this zine culture has created this alternative anti-capitalist network,
Mm.
that is about like essentially like trades. Um, Zinesters encourage one another to correspond as well, to write back and forth about their experience, and to just keep that kind of culture alive. If folks are in the Peterborough and Noguchiwanong area, my zines are available at Take Cover Books. And I think I need to expand that as well and have some zines in other spaces. But yes, so they're available for folks, and essentially, like the cost associated is just to recover the price of printing. Uh,
Right. Yeah, for
so,
sure.
yeah, and so I tend to keep those prices fairly low. The more polished scenes obviously cost a bit more because getting access to like a print shop and having them do runs of them costs a fair amount. But little zines like the mini zines that I showed you, I just print them off on a photocopier, so they're only like I give most of them away
Yeah.
um, as just like here, have this. Except, and I think I've got a zine and book fest coming up that I'm a vendor for. It's at Art Space Peterborough, and I'll be distributing some of my zines there as well, and have these little zines as like little bonuses. So when someone gets a more like polished zine, they can grab one of the one pagers as well.
Oh, very nice. Very cool, Derek. So I'm afraid we have to wrap this up. And
Oh no.
I'm so proud of us. Like we're actually talking for a short amount of time.
And we are some loquacious people.
So, where can people learn all about the Derek and how they can contact you?
So I'm at Derek Newman still on Instagram, and that's generally the best place to follow, especially if you want to see more of my visual culture kind of things. And I'm also on Facebook, but I tend to keep Facebook a little more limited. So best thing is at Derek Newman still on Instagram.
Okay, so can they like send you a message or comment on a zine if they are interested in that?
Absolutely. And I have had folks correspond with me about the zines as well, because they've just come across my Insta feed and we're like, oh, that looks really cool. Can I have one of those? So it's a good way to kind of keep that correspondence going. And I always love hearing feedback from folks about the zines as well.
Great news! After this episode was recorded, dereknewmanstill.ca went live. Email hello@dereknewmanstill.ca.
Well, thank you so much, Derek. It was such a pleasure to do this. Folks, just a little bit of a fun fact. 150 years ago, I was on Speculative Canada Speculating Canada radio show. And that was my first time really talking to Derek for a long time. So it's a pleasure for me to have it come first full circle for Derek to be here on the Disabled Crone. So thank you
Oh,
so much, Derek.
thank you so much, Kat. This was really lovely. And I look forward to chatting in the future about more topics around disability and expression.
Me too.
Have a great afternoon.
You too. All right, folks, that's our episode. And stay tuned for our season finale, episode 6.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Disabled Crone. You can learn more about the Spoonie Authors Network at our website, SpoonieAuthorsNetwork.com, and by following us on Blue Sky. Thanks also to Bruce Gordon for writing the theme tune for this podcast.